Mailbag time here on Seahawks Today as we are answering all of your questions. From Jake Bobo to everything in between, you better believe we got plenty to talk about here on today's show. Before we answer your questions, though, a little challenge from the bosses. My boss, James Yoder, he said to me today, Tyler, you guys aren't getting enough subs. There's no way you can get 20 subs on today's video. And I said, Yodes, I'm going to prove you wrong. We're getting 20 subs on today's video right here, right now. Can we prove the boss is wrong? Can we get 20 subs? Subscribe now to Seahawks Today for daily coverage, news, rumors, mailbags, and to prove the boss is wrong right here on Seahawks Today. Tyler Lockfit writes, I like that. Are we going to see more Jake Bobo soon? Hashtag Seahawks. That is the thing everybody wants to know. More Bobo, more Bobo. Jake Bobo, from the little we've seen of him, small sample size, he has looked really good. But that's the thing. We haven't seen a ton of him just yet. I think that Jake Bobo's role is going to increase as we go along throughout the year. And something to keep in mind when it comes to the Jake Bobo front. When I watch him on film and what he brings to the table in particular, he is not only a good pass catcher that finds ways to get open, but he's also a very good blocker. And if you're a receiver that can block, that gets you more playing time. The Seahawks are only carrying, 4 active receivers right now, last time I checked? So Jake Bobo, as this goes along, as he gets more acclimated in this offense, I think you're going to see more Bobo, just like what the people want. So let's shout out our boy Jake Bobo in the comment section. Come on in, hop on the train if you're not there already. Spam more Bobo in the comment section for Jake Bobo. I want to see as many more Bobos as we can for Jake Bobo. Spam it in there. We need at least 100 comments today saying more Bobo. You want more Bobo? You want him more involved in that offense? Then show it. Prove it right now here on Seahawks Today. Hall of Fame GOAT 214 writes, surprised by how well Tre Brown has played. Hashtag Seahawks. Hall of Fame GOAT. Very good question as far as the status of Tre Brown goes. And here's what I would tell you on the Tre Brown front. He had a solid rookie season. Last year was basically lost because of injury. We barely got to see much of Tre Brown, right? And now you fast forward to 2023, and Tre Brown's been fantastic. He has missed some time with injuries, but when he's been out there, he's been as good as any corner on this Seahawks team pretty much, maybe other than Devin Witherspoon. And I thought Tre Brown, when healthy and everything, could play at a high level. I didn't expect him to play this good, okay? Think about it this way. You play Madden, okay, and you play with the CPU. And the CPU is only going to do so much. But then when I take over the controls, then guys are going to go up to another level. Tre Brown has basically taken over the controls from the CPU and elevated his play to a whole nother level. He was great this past week. The Lions game in particular was a breakout game for him. I think Tre Brown, the way that he's rolling right now, this isn't a fluke by any means. It's here to stay. More to come from Tre Brown. Watch out. How would you grade Tre Brown's season so far? A, B, C, D, or F, what do you think about his start to 2023? Get in that comment section and let us know what you think about what Tre Brown has done so far this season. Let us know what you think. Cuba Lopez writes in, what will it take for JSN to break out? And asking about the offensive line. I think he's asking if the offensive line has something to do with that. That's a very good question. And much to the same extent about Jake Bobo, it comes down to scheme and getting him more involved, finding ways to get him the football here. I think that's the biggest thing, is putting a priority to finding ways to get him involved. And think about this, okay? When you look back at last year, Geno Smith was at his best in the downfield passing game, and he struggled in the short to medium passing game. JSN was brought in large part to help out Geno Smith in the short to medium passing game, being a possession receiver, the bubble screens, getting out in space, middle of the field, and all that. To me, I think it just comes down to scheme and giving him that opportunity, and he can prove himself there. And the offensive line, as far as that equation, the offensive line being connected there, I mean, you talk about a screen passing game that's entirely dependent on the offensive line, giving you a few minutes to get that dink and dump off. So, yes, the offensive line can help out JSN. As they get healthier, JSN should improve. Cod Hype writes in, do you think Charles Cross was in the way last week and we would have won with a backup? You know, I wasn't happy with Charles Cross. That was not one of his better games. But statistically speaking, like the PFF grades and everything still showed that he was above average, but he wasn't up to Charles Cross standard, if that makes sense. So, you know, maybe he came back too early. Potentially, they would have been better off had they gone with one of the backups in that position, but that's not something I can confidently say. That's not something that we know for certain. The Seahawks coaching staff saw something in Charles Cross. They believed he was good enough, that he was the right call, that even with him not playing his best, they thought that was better than what the other backups had to offer. So I can't firmly say yes or no, but I didn't like what I saw from there. I do think that he will be better this upcoming week. Another game under his belt. His footing was off too. That was the big thing. He just couldn't keep his feet going. I expect improvement this week. Today's show brought to you by BetUS, the exclusive sportsbook partner of Chat Sports. If you go to chatsports.com/bet, enter the promo code Seahawks125, you will get a 125% deposit bonus. Put $100 down, you get $125 to spend for free at chatsports.com/bet. It's like buying a pizza and getting an extra slice for free. It's a great deal that we're offering from BetUS. Here's the thing. Seahawks are favored by 8 this week. Are you putting your bets on the Seahawks to cover? What about the over-under at 45.5, 44.5? You can bet on this game as well as other Seahawks games and NFL games. Right there, use that promo code, chatsports.com/bet, promo code Seahawks125, and get that comment section. Let me know what your bet is. Is it on the Seahawks, or are you going to Arizona? If you're rolling with the Seahawks, type C for the Seahawks. If you're rolling with the Cardinals, type ARI for the Cardinals. I better not see any ARIs in that comment section. Show them up. Let us know in the comment section. Matthew writes in, we clearly need help with the O-line, but what position, tackle, guard, or center? My point is, who would be a good trade target? Well, I'm glad that you asked about that, Matthew. Earlier in the week, the thing that I pointed to was the offensive guard spot. With Phil Haynes not off to a good start to this year, we've seen him and Damian Lewis both with some injuries. The tackle spots, even with Cross and Lucas when they were out, they held their own, the tackle spots. But the guard spots, not so much. Anthony Bradford has looked good when he's filled in, but you might have to mix and match and might be starting to look for other options. Two guys I talked about earlier this week that are on the trade block that could get moved from some teams that are selling. Ezra Cleveland from the Minnesota Vikings, who's got PFF grades that are 72 plus across the board. He's a good everything guy. And then Cody Whitehair, former Pro Bowl guard. Both those guys can do multiple things, too. If you're looking for depth to be able to do multiple things, Cleveland is a guy also from the Pacific Northwest, from just outside Tacoma, that's played tackle and guard. And then Whitaker has been able to play center and guard. So that's what I would look at if you're going to make some changes. The offensive guard spot might be something I'd potentially shop at the deadline here. Scott writes in, does it look as if the Hawks are still looking for, I think that's supposed to mean identity? It's interesting you bring that up, Scott, because what we were told before the year was that the identity the Seahawks wanted was to be a run-first football team that played a hard-nosed defense and was able to stop the run. Well, so far, through the first 5 games, the Seahawks' run defense has come a long way, 100 miles better than it was last year. So that box has been checked. Your defensive identity is coming into its own. And the pass rush is coming along. The secondary is playing better. I'm not so much at this point worried about your defensive identity. Now the other half of that question. Let's talk about the offense now. The problem that I see is that the Seahawks get away from the run game. I don't want Geno throwing it 40 times. I don't need that. Run the football. Don't just establish the run, but stay with the run game. So they do have an identity, but they get away from it sometimes. Long answer, but that's how I've described that, Scott. Cincinnati Seahawks writes in. Say hi to our buddy Tom Downey up there, Cincinnati Seahawks. Okay, I have an episode idea. We take a peek into the future and see some QB prospects Seattle could take in the draft like Ward or Tagovailoa. If it's too early, maybe like December. We'll have plenty of time to talk draft stuff, Cincinnati Seahawks. It's still October right now. Geno's still a quarterback. And I'll say this, just a little tease. If we're talking quarterbacks, I'm not talking about Tua's brother or Ward here. There's 5 guys that come to mind. Caleb Williams, Drake May, Michael Penix, Quinn Ewers. Those are the guys. I'm missing one more. Bo Nix, Riley Leonard, Shedeur Sanders. That's who I was looking for if he comes out. So those would be the guys, but we still have a long ways to go before we get to that point. Subscribe to Seahawks Today for more coverage. We're going to be live coming up this weekend for our Seahawks versus Cardinals watch party. We'll see you then. Have a great day. Thanks for joining us.